You're listening to the Barcode Podcast with your host, Chris Glandon, serving cybersecurity straight up with no chaser. Let's hit the bar and grab a drink.
Hey, Tony, you know this guy?
Oh, yeah. Stand down, Rico. This is my man, Chris.
How's it going, Tony? Hey, who's this tough guy in the suit behind you?
Oh, yeah. He's just my new bodyguard. Just I'm now on the elevated status within the Barcode environment. I need to be sure I'm fully protected in transit and at rest.
Understood. I don't want to see anything happen to you.
Hey, Tony.
Oh, hey, Danielle. How you been? What can I get you?
You know what? I think I'll have that encrypted drink I had last time. That was so good. Although I can't seem to remember the name of it.
Encrypted drink? What's that?
Oh, yeah, it's a special drink around here. And only when you add the right ingredients together, it deciphers a code that's written on the side of the glass.
And more importantly, it's so delicious.
I gotta see this. Make that too.
Yeah, you got it. Just keep it on the down low. It's called 2 ounces peach and bourbon liqueur, 2 ounces vodka, 6 ounces orange juice. Combine the peach and bourbon liqueur, vodka, and orange juice in a highball glass containing exactly 2 ice cubes. No more, no less. Stir it. Then, as you can see, the secret message is revealed in plain text.
Oh my God! Mine says free drink. It does not get any better than this.
Mine just says null value. Oh well, at least it tastes excellent.
Tony, it's break time. Let's go.
All right, gotta run. Enjoy those drinks. We'll see you next round.
Purandar, CEO and founder of Zotero, is an experienced executive with a demonstrated history of success in the information technology and services space. He is an expert in crafting innovative technology solutions that align with business goals of enterprise-level clients. He and his company, Zotero, are on a mission to reimagine data security for the digital economy. Purandar, welcome to Barcode, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
So I'd first like to ask about your background and your evolution into cybersecurity and the data protection space specifically. Would you mind talking us through your journey?
Yeah, of course. Chris, my background is in marketing technology. And what I mean by that is enabling organizations to collect, store, and act on their customers' information to build better relationships. So when you imagine the large corporations that collect millions, if not billions, of transactional information from their customers to be able to better message to them, better target them, better personalize the interaction, that's what I grew. That's the industry in the world that I grew up in, enabling companies to better build better relationships for commercial or monetization purposes. So why security, right? From there, I mean, I'm on the marketing side, which if you think about it, is all about monetizing or in a coarse way, exploiting information. There's a personal angle to this as well. I was one of the many people impacted in a data breach. And the results were pretty dramatic. I had a tax return filed in my name, I had credit card account application submitted, and I had a bank account opened in my name. So kind of scrambling to take care of those things. Once I kind of got ahead of those, my next thought was, hey, in my job, I actually help manage billions of consumer records that have sensitive information on them that is being stolen. What can I do to better protect this data, to better protect information and help companies build a more trusting relationship or partnership with their customers? So that was the starting point for this journey into cybersecurity. That quickly led into limitations of today's or existing data security approaches and products. And along with my co-founder and partner, we started to imagine what could be done if we could come up with a better way for helping companies secure data while still being able to operate on it What we didn't want to do is build a security product that limited access and limited usability of data, right? Functionality of data, because that has been the bane historically of data-focused security products. It's about how do you limit access and how do you limit use of the data. We wanted to take a different approach and say, hey, what about a solution that enables both security as well as the ability to use the data confidently? So that was the genesis, and that's the reason why I got into cybersecurity.
Very interesting. And there's definitely a need for that for sure. You mentioned that, this all spawned off of the fact you were involved in a data breach once. I was involved in one once, and data breaches, ransomware, insider threats, these are all headlines that you're seeing in the media now more often. And I think more and more people are in the same situation that we were. Data is absolutely the crown jewels within any organization, and that's regardless of size, industry, or the mission. It can potentially lead to immeasurable damage, and it can cripple an organization in 1 second. I think that's about how long it takes for a left mouse click to occur. One vulnerability exploited could be game over for an entire organization. So protecting data is very crucial, and it's in the crosshairs of an attacker's scope. I think data seems to be the first target. In your perspective, is this what a security program should be primarily focused on? And if so, how can an organization realign their current defensive operations if that is not their focus?
The very short answer, Chris, is yes. That's what organizations should be focused on. You alluded to data driving today's economy, right? Whether it's and mostly digital, because that's where everything is evolving to. And you also alluded to the constant headlines of all kinds of threats, whether it's ransomware or a breach or any kind of a hack, right? The fundamental challenge are a couple of things. One is the sheer volume of data that is being generated in today's world. Practically every interaction generates some kind of a meaningful data set. And most of them have sensitive attributes related to that data set, PII, PHI, whatever it is, right? Organizations architected solutions in an environment where data generation was not nearly as rapid as it is today. It was also architected in a world where technology really hadn't evolved to the level that it has today. And there's good and bad to it. The positive side of that technology evolution is just very simply the cloud and the services that the cloud has enabled. It helps organizations achieve goals that they couldn't even dream of at a speed that nobody thought of was possible. The scale, the speed, the ease, the number of features and functionality that are available as services or platforms is just monumental. And it's driving progress across the entire spectrum, right? Not just technology, just in business and in real life. The flip side, or the ugly side of that technology evolution, is it has put the same tools in the hands of people that are attempting to do wrong things, right? What used to be a one-off or a small set of teams or a small set of people that had nefarious designs would attempt to hack one or two companies periodically. Now it's an established business, trillions of dollars at stake. So there are countries that are building economies around this whole business. We've all heard of the story of one country that uses hack and data theft to drive their economy, right? So that's the ugly side of it. Unfortunately, what has not kept up with this technology evolution is security. And security still is based on the old design of protect the perimeter, which is like, let's try to keep people out, without realizing that the number of entry points for anybody to come into an environment or an ecosystem or a network has just multiplied by magnitudes. So it's really not practical. That's what just should be one aspect of the solution. Then you go over to what are organizations trying to protect? It's the data, right? That's been the last thing that has evolved in terms of data security. It's still a legacy product based around this notion of encrypt data and you're safe. But it's not really the case, because encrypted data is only safe when no one's using it. When people try to use it, it has to be decrypted, because there's no way to operate on encrypted data. And that's the big vulnerability that we are closing. And what we wanted to do is build a product that can scale, that can adapt itself to whether it's a legacy architecture or an emerging architecture, or even help in the transition from a legacy state to a newer one, whether it's in the cloud or some other platform that companies want to adopt. So that was the way we visualized the solution, and that's the way we architected the offering.
Excellent. And you mentioned just the overwhelming volume of data right now. And with the sheer volume of data that you see also comes with a sheer volume of data security products that are trying to solve that problem. And the security stack is reaching new verticals constantly. And I think a lot of customers get lost in the lingo sometimes. They're experiencing vendor fatigue, trying to filter out the snake oil from the valuable solutions, while at the same time trying to determine what's manageable for them and the personnel resources that they have. So my next question is, how would you approach this concern that organizations have to help guide them to a holistic data protection approach while eliminating the confusion in the market?
Oh, you bring up a great point, right? I mean, vendor fatigue is real. Yeah, the confusion that security organizations have created in the market is just unbelievable. And it's a result of one thing, right? Many vendors sell on this fear, on the notion of fear. If you don't do this, you're going to lose your business, right? That's one thing. And second is, because of the complexity of the technology stack, they claim to do everything and anything, just depending on what situation they're trying to sell into. But really, products have been focused very narrowly on small segments of solution. There's not been a holistic approach of saying, what can we provide organizations and to use this and be able to scale on this solution as a platform, right? That not just applies to one instance, but applies broadly to all of the instances that the organization uses, whether it's a technology development stack or development technologies or data storage technologies. When you talk about organizations needing to reimagine what they ought to do, what we tell folks is, hey, we designed this problem with one thing in mind. It was, if you're trying to protect data, we want to start helping you protect data. Everything else is needed. There's a lot of other pieces that are needed to provide a holistic solution, but you have to start thinking about data first and then build on top of that. And I think taking a step back and saying, where should we start with our security posture, which should be data. And when you think about protecting data, let's look at a solution that enables us to continue to use the data in a safe and secure way, and then build on top of that.
Data first. I like that. Yeah. I like that. One thing I've noticed across multiple industries when tracing the generation of data is that core business processes don't include data security controls. And often security products are retrofitted to circumvent or repair sensitive data workflows post-mortem. My belief is that this is due to the complexity of the deployment or implementation, as well as just a general fear from the organization of performance hits or workflow impact. Is it possible to embed data protection into business processes without disruption and have it appear seamless to end users?
Absolutely. And that's a key part of the product design objective or the design goals that we put in place. Because if you think about it, when I mentioned my background in marketing, as the CTO, I was the buyer. I was on the flip side of buying these products from many vendors. And I'm very familiar with the disruption, the missed promises that products cause. And I have scars to prove it as well. So one of the things we put in place was, hey, we have to design a product that minimizes, if not eliminates, disruption on business processes, right? And also performance, right? I mean, if you think about a website that has thousands of users at any given time, introducing any kind of a latency or friction into the buying process causes them to lose revenue. And that's not acceptable, right? So we designed the product to be minimally invasive in that we didn't want to force any changes on applications, but we also wanted to provide the level of performance that businesses need to operate. Business processes partly are based on humans being familiar and comfortable with an established process, right? So any kind of a change is viewed as disruptive, whether it's physical change or a process change. There has to be some amount of openness in adopting newer technologies and say, hey, the value that the business derives from this deployment or from adopting this product is well worth the disruption that it causes, whether it's perceived or real.
Sure, absolutely. So recently, we heard about the Acelion breach, and for those that don't know, many organizations and government entities have acknowledged that they were compromised due to vulnerabilities contained within Acelion's legacy software. And one of the unfortunate victims being the Washington State Auditor's Office, who had to notify unemployed workers that their benefit claim information may have been compromised. How can organizations protect legacy software without having to recode or rebuild applications, even if they know it's not designed with security in mind, but maybe business critical?
Chris, that's a great question. It actually touches on two different aspects that people don't really think about. But first, the pain that it causes on folks that are already hurting is just unimaginable, right? You said unemployment is rampant right now. And what this is stacked on top of that for those unfortunate people is really unfortunate. Back to the 2 points that the Acelion event exposes. One is the blind assumption that a third-party security software or a third-party service provider or product provider is secure, right? And you think about that in the context of the amount of data that's shared between organizations in a vendor-partner or partner-partner ecosystem is just monumental, right? So far, data security has just focused on protecting an operational data set that's within their control, within an organization's control. Nobody has taken a step back and said, how can I retain control of my data in somebody else's platform or in somebody else's hands? That's the leap that organizations have to do, right? I mean, if you truly want to build a trusting relationship with your customers, with your clients, you need to be in control of that data regardless of where it is. And that's the kind of a product that you need to look at and say, even if I have to use a third-party service provider, right, or a third-party platform, I still want an environment where my data is secure and it's in my control, regardless of what kind of controls and security that the third party provides. You spoke about legacy, and that's a common reason you hear for a lot of different things, not just security, right? I mean, if you don't have features, if you don't have functionality, if your business is not moving fast enough, it's often blamed on legacy software. It is true. Legacy software imposes certain restrictions just because of the feature sets are the thing. That's where the cloud adoption is become so rampant because you can get over that in one hump. But legacy software doesn't mean you shouldn't worry about securing data. It's absolutely critical that you figure out a way, and there are products. That's the kind of company we are. Protect data regardless of what platform it's in. Legacy, modern, emerging, it doesn't matter. That's the kind of product and that's the kind of mindset organizations have to adopt to truly stay in control of the data.
100%. And when I think legacy, my mind goes straight to the healthcare industry. You know, you have medical devices, legacy systems, or proprietary systems that run third-party software in hospitals. That's a huge risk. So being able to still protect that data flow is critical.
To that point, Chris, and I will make one last observation on that.
Sure.
Even though, I mean, like you said, the medical industry is rampant with proprietary platforms that dominate the space, right? There's only a handful of them. They're all the 800-pound gorillas in that space. The good news is that what has happened in the last several years is the emergence of APIs or interaction frameworks, right? That enables data security controls to be put in place, even if it's a legacy platform support provided by a vendor that isn't necessarily amenable to change. And that also works for legacy. That works certainly for legacy product, but it also works for a lot of the cloud-based services. The good news is it's becoming an open environment where APIs and other interfaces are provided to interact. So there is the framework to remain in control and keep your data secure, even if it's not in your own platform.
Understood. And these are all issues that Zotero has set out to solve. Talk to me a little bit about Zotero. And I guess my first question right off the bat is what is the meaning of Zotero and how did you come up with the name?
So if you think about what we were trying to do is secure data, right? And Zotero derives from the Greek goddess of safety. We wanted to be the savior of data, or we wanted to be what organizations thought of when they wanted to secure data.
I like it. Yeah, data flows so rapidly today, and making sure it's safe is very important. And, there's internal workflows, external workflows, authorized, unauthorized. How can Zotero help secure data involved with these many workflows in an organization without the overhead?
All great questions, Chris. I'll start with the basic premise of what we do at Zotero. Unlike legacy encryption products, which keep data encrypted while at rest, but decrypt them or stage them in plain text for operations and use, we actually keep data encrypted while it's in use. So there is no need to keep the data, to decrypt the data for access and use. That's the core premise on which the technology stack is built. We also spoke about non-disruptive thing. One of our, we set a couple of key objectives as we were conceptualizing the product and the offering. And our experiences, my experience being on the buyer side of things was very critical in that. We said it should be a non-invasive, non-disruptive deployment process, which meant a couple of things. One is don't expect applications to change because organizations have little appetite, or in some cases, no control if it's a commercial application, right? They don't own the code. So we said no changes on the application side, no performance latencies that would hurt the business process. That was one thing. The other objective that we set in place was, hey, there are a lot of technology stacks that are in use, right? We're not going to go dictate that you have to adopt a particular technology data stack or a data store for you to use. We will work with any data store that exists out there. Then you spoke about workflows. There are many kinds of workflows. There's transactional workflows, high volume, high frequency workflows. There's analytic workflows. There's data in motion. When you think about something like IoT environments, these IoT devices are streaming data at unbelievable rates. So we said we want to create a product or a framework that is applicable to all of these. So multi-database technology support, non-invasive deployment, either in the form of a ODBC, JDBC driver, or an API interface that can be integrated. We can plug into streaming services so that the data is encrypted as soon as it's collected and never exposed throughout its life cycle. We can support multi-petabyte analytic warehouses without impacting the security or the privacy, but enabling those analytics and research to be performed at scale. We also said, what's the other big area where data is exposed? It's when organizations get together to share data, whether it's for research, analytics, enhancement, appends, enrichment, name it. So we also can adopt this notion of enabling a secure data sharing or a clean room. So we enable multiple organizations or multiple parties to commingle their data and then operate, research, run analytics and analysis on the data set without the need for either parties to decrypt or view the sensitive attributes in the data set. So that's the holistic view of how Zotero can plug into existing workflows and existing technology stacks.
Very interesting. Let me ask you about cloud then. How does Zotero enable security within the cloud?
Great question, Chris. One of the first things that senior technical and technology and security executives ask themselves when they're considering a cloud platform or cloud services, how is my data going to be secure? Even if I assumed that the eventual target or place where the data lands is considered secure, how do I get my data from an on-premise environment to the cloud? So what we did with Zotero is we actually built the migration platform that enables organizations to securely move data. And what I mean by that is the data is encrypted as it's being extracted from that on-premise environment. So there is no point in time that the data is exposed at all throughout its thing. The second question you asked me about the cloud, how do we enable cloud security in the cloud? What we have done is developed our own SaaS offering. In addition to providing container deployments that are either on-premise or in the cloud VPC for a client, we also provide our own platform as a SaaS service. What I mean by that is it's a transactional pass-through service where they own the keys, no data stored, but it does the encryption and the provisioning for the clients. We do the load management, we do the failover, we do the fail safe, we manage the upkeep of the platform. So they have nothing to worry about other than just using the platform and not worrying about what happens if my load doubles tomorrow. What happens if I see 2 times the data that I'm pushing in today? None of that matters because we automatically scale and address all of that. On the back end of the platform, we natively support every database storage technology in the clouds. So we have adapters. Let's say if you're going to use an RDS service, great, we can give you that. If you're using a proprietary database stack that's deployed in the cloud as a service, great, we can let you connect to that. So we take away the worries about data migration from an on-premise environment. We also take away the worries about load management and scale and performance. Finally, we take away the worry about what target database they're going to use. We impose no control. We say, you choose the platform that's best for you. We'll support you in that.
Excellent. Where can our listeners go to find out more about the features, the architecture, or just to ask questions about the capability of Zotero?
Like every other organization, the simplest thing is to go to our website, which is www.soterosoft.com, or send us an email at info@soterosoft.com. We'd be happy to engage with you, help you understand our product better, and help you see a demo, and maybe even do a product evaluation.
Definitely. I think you're absolutely right. This is something that's needed. I think it's something that's overlooked. And if you can protect that data and make it seamless to the user, I think that's gold.
That's our goal, Chris. What we want to do is build Zotero to be the name that organizations think of when they think of data security. And when they use Zotero, we want them to be confident and comfortable that their data is secure.
So as we transition to a post-pandemic world and folks start congregating again in public and in bars, you may start to see COVID vaccine tracking systems or immunity cards for entry into public establishments. What would be your message to these establishments to ensure patrons feel comfortable? And on the flip side, what should patrons be aware of when this becomes a requirement?
I think from a establishment perspective, the simple message to them is adopt a technology that keeps your patrons' data secure, right? More so than any other business, the entertainment and the food and beverage business is built on trusting relationships. The last thing you want to do is violate that by being frivolous or being careless about the data that you're collecting. There are ways to either engage with partners, vendors that provide a secure way of collecting and tracking the data, or there's also ways where you can validate the user and their credentials, but never store the data. there are two approaches. And I mean, establishments should be really cautious about getting this, especially given the amount of hurt that they've gone through, right? As you try to rebuild your business, build it on trust. You don't want to jeopardize it again, right? From a patron's going into a thing, I mean, that's one of the first things you want to validate, is that there should be some way to validate the credentials of an establishment and their data collection storage mechanism. Make sure that they're not sharing or selling your data to generate additional revenue, right? I mean, what we're talking about is highly personal, sensitive data, medical history. So, I mean, I think this needs to be caution. There needs to be some framework for both parties to validate that they collect data securely, store it securely, and for patrons to feel comfortable that the establishment has signed up to do things the right way.
I agree. Do you see it eventually becoming governed by a regulatory body?
I think so. I absolutely, there will be regulations around this, because this is not just establishment. We're also talking about travel, international travel, a whole host of areas. I mean, maybe even workplaces, right? I mean, as our companies open up again, there will be regulation. The question is, will the regulations be fast enough, and will they be comprehensive enough? That's always the challenge with regulation.
Yeah, great point. As things continue to start opening and you may see these immunity passports coming into play, a lot of people are going to get back into the bar scene. And I'm just curious, it's no secret that even if you get into a bar or into a restaurant, people tend to leak data that result in risk and liability to themselves and their information. In your opinion, when you're out and about or you're at a bar, what do you see as the biggest risk to data security in a social atmosphere like that? And can establishments do a better job at protecting the data of their patrons?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, a situation in a bar or a social gathering where inhibitions are lowered leads to a lot of talk, right? And what customers or individuals need to realize is that the bad actors don't need a whole lot of your information. They just need bits and snippets that they're really good at stitching together into a scheme, right? That's how this thing works. Because you're thinking, I mean, if I just gave somebody my name and my phone number, that shouldn't matter.
All right.
But they're really smart. The social hacking is really smart. The social engineering aspect of it is they use those bits and pieces to continue to build a profile.
Yep.
Right. That's what and the only way to counter that is awareness. And there's also a generational issue here, right? I mean, the prior generations grew up really respecting privacy, right, and their own information. That's not so true with the advent of social media platforms and all of those interactions thing. The bar for what's considered sensitive or private has fallen pretty dramatically. I think an awareness campaign of even the smallest things that you could share in a crowded setting or in a social gathering could come back to hurt you has to happen. And I think it's up to the establishments to make sure that patrons are aware as they're mingling or as they're interacting, to be very cautious about what they say, what they do, and who they say it to.
Great point.
It's very critical, I believe.
It's a great point, and you're right. It's become a data sharing era where it's an afterthought. So I just heard last call here at the bar. Do you have time for one more?
Absolutely, Chris.
Okay. If you opened a cybersecurity themed bar, what would the name be, and what would your signature drink be called?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would probably name the bar Clean Room.
I like that.
For a signature drink, I'd probably call it Scrambled Message.
Would the recipe be encrypted, or would you be able to know what's in it?
I think we would have to provide the recipe just to make people comfortable that there's nothing nefarious about it. But the whole notion of keeping data secure, I think Scrambled Message kind of plays on that notion.
Definitely. Or maybe you can encrypt it, but then somewhere within the bar, there's the key. But then people would just get frustrated that they can't get their drink fast enough. All right, very good. Well, we'll have to look into that for sure. I think that would be a hit. And where are you located?
We're in Burlington, Massachusetts.
Okay. So would you build it in Burlington or Boston?
I would build in Burlington. I don't know if you've been to Burlington these days. This place has evolved from being a sleepy little town with maybe 2 restaurants to having practically every restaurant that you can think of.
Wow.
It is a destination food place now.
What's the nightlife scene there? You said it's building up. Do you have a lot of cool bars there, or any cool speakeasies or secret bars that we should be aware of?
Let me put it this way. I think there's been maybe 20 restaurants opened in Burlington over the last 4 to 5 years.
Oh, man.
Maybe not as cool as the Boston scene because they targeted Burlington targets the family audience as well.
Gotcha.
But you do see there's also what plays into that is there's a ton of offices, really large companies, right? We sit between Microsoft on one side and Oracle on the other. So there's the younger working crowd that heads to the restaurants and bars. They're packed. Every restaurant that opens up is packed. And I'm like, how do they find these people?
That's where you want to be, though. I mean,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your expertise on data protection and Zotero. I have the links I'm going to post on the website and really direct people to at least check out the service, check out the solution. It sounds very cutting edge, and not a lot of organizations are doing what you're doing. Putting data first is always number one in my book. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insight, and I look forward to catching up with you at some point at a real bar.
Absolutely, Chris. First of all, thank you for having me. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to you and share with you what we're doing. Absolutely look forward to catching up with you in a bar.
All right, sounds great. You be safe. Take care.
You as well.
Barcode patrons, if you enjoyed this episode and want an easy way to support the podcast, please leave me a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. If you're not on a Mac or iPhone, just visit thebarcodepodcast.com/reviews. I appreciate all the support. Cheers.
Unfortunately, it's time to shut the bar down for this episode. Thanks for stopping in. See you next time. We'll save you a seat. Be sure to check us out at thebarcodepodcast.com.